Welcome to heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. As always, I am Mike Chisholm. As always, I am excited to be doing this show. It is the highlight of my week. I'm a broken record. If you've watched a couple of these in a row, you hear me say the same thing right from the start. It's all true and it's all happening. And we're very excited watching this He Changed It universe kind of be born and start to grow right in front of us organically. We're still in the beta phase of this thing, let's face it, and getting all the bugs worked out. And there's for those who have been here since the beginning, you notice a couple of the updates that have just happened in the app, lots of good stuff happening to stabilize things. And it's so beautiful watching this community grow. And that includes the heCast community. I'm so grateful to be a part of this. If you haven't downloaded the He Changed It app yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Whatever your persuasion, whether it's the Apple Store or the Android Store, we come on in, search for He Changed It, find the He app, download that thing. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing and sharing the podcast, we would really appreciate that too. The overlords of He Changed It, obviously they look at metrics and things like that, and they get real happy when we have more shares and subscribes, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is make the world a better place when it comes to the subject of mental wellness, specifically in men. But we know that there is a massive trickle-down effect. We've got a lot of women who listen and watch this podcast as well, because they want to help support the men in their lives. Moms who want to support their sons, that sort of thing. This whole thing has been birthed from my wife not liking the world that her boys are inheriting. And so that's why He Changed It is doing what it's doing. And I'll tell you the part that I love the most. It's meeting other people who have very similar goals and ideals. They want to make the world a better place, but they're doing it from their vantage point, doing it with the things that they're passionate about and the things that they love. And many of the guests that we have on heCast reflect that. And today is no exception to that. The guy that we have on today is a guy by the name of Martin Richardson. Now, I got connected with him through the hockey world. If you've been listening to this podcast or watching on the YouTube, you know that we have a deep, deep connection to hockey, not just because I'm Canadian and it's religion up here, but just when it comes to mental wellness. The sport of hockey in many ways has really embraced the idea. I look at, we've had coaches and former players who talk about the locker room then versus the locker room now and where things are at and how important mental wellness is. A few months ago, we had a guy by the name of Ryan Stresnitsky on. He was a member of the Humboldt Broncos. And that was one of the best conversations I've ever had with a human being. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who has taken adversity and looked at it and said, yeah, now hold my beer. I'm going to go and I'm going to show you how I deal with adversity. And it is so inspiring. And up in Canada, we call what Ryan is doing now, we call it sledge hockey. You know, he got paralyzed from that accident. And he's like, well, I guess I'm going to go and become one of the best sledge hockey players in the world. And that has introduced us to different folks that are out there. Martin has his own story, which I'm not going to spoil. I'm going to let him tell the story. And he has a vision to impact that world and change it in a way that is going to impact the rest of our world around us. And I don't think that I'm telling tales out of school when I talk about what Dawg Nation is going to do. Martin, thank you very, very much for taking time out of your busy day. You're in Colorado. You're a CPA. It's tax season, but you've taken time out of your day to talk about the foundation and the movement that you're building alone. Martin, welcome to heCast.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this one as well, and definitely had to set a few tax returns aside today, but this is more important than those.
Always been in Colorado?
No, actually was born in England, of all places, and immigrated when I was really little, not even a year old, to British Columbia, and lived in Victoria for a while, and parents are complete immigrants. Dad from England, mom from Germany, and me from England, actually, myself, and ended up eventually landing in Golden, Colorado, as my dad was a pipe fitter for place called Coors Brewing Company, and so he put in the beer lines, and grew up in Colorado. Pretty much went to school there and college there, and CPA there, and start this foundation there too.
Your dad did the Lord's work. Thank you very much to Daddy Richardson for what he did. Wow, that's outstanding. So safe to say you landed in British Columbia in your formative years. Is that where the love of hockey came from?
Not really. I was I don't know where it really came from. I just was enthralled with the sport. Being from England, soccer was number one, and I was born in really close to Manchester, where Manchester United plays. So really kind of a birthing right. You get put red and white on your little stocking cap when you're a little kid there. And my dad is to this day a big soccer fan. And I ended up being a college soccer player, actually. And so I was decent enough to play some pretty high levels myself. But always loved hockey. And I remember even back when we lived in San Diego, I was just in kindergarten. I was just enthralled with the San Diego Gulls at the time, minor league hockey team there. And I didn't know any of the players. I was just a little kid. But when I go back and look at it later, Willie O'Ree was actually on that team. So it was pretty cool. And Max McNabb, Peter McNabb's father, was the coach. And so there was kind of some neat stuff along the way. But when I was really early age, I would listen to the Denver Spurs on my transistor radio, and I'd fall asleep, and I still remember the smell of that radio, and I would sometimes forget to turn that off and fall asleep and have to go begging my parents for another 9-volt battery so I could listen to the game the next night. And I remember getting in trouble a few times because I would do that. We didn't have a whole lot of money, so even a 9-volt battery was a big deal. But at 8-9 years old, I went to my very first hockey game. It was Denver Spurs against the Salt Lake City Golden Eagles playoff game in the Denver Coliseum. And I literally still remember the score. I remember the ladies' feet on the back of my seat. I remember the smell of the beer and the hot dogs. And it was that big of a deal to me because I had listened to my heroes on my transistor radio and had a vivid image of what these guys looked like and what the goalie looked like. And then to be in that place was amazing to me. And I've always had that huge passion for the sport, even though it was really out of the realm financially for my parents for us to play. But I would play pond hockey and follow the teams and so on and so forth. And when I was done with a pretty long soccer career, I started a men's league team myself.
Yeah. And I want to talk about nostalgia just for a second, because I mean, I think about how many of the things that there are some people who have submitted the idea that our generation is the first one that actually got a full childhood. And I think about how important that is. We've talked to so many life coaches and different people about childhood traumas and how childhood can actually form, what your adulthood is with subconscious pathways that we don't understand. I have a similar memory when it comes to hockey about my dad taking me to my first, Kelowna Buckaroos game back in the day. And my father and I just went to a Rockets game a couple weeks ago. And I said that to him. I said, Dad, I can remember, for me, the smells and all that stuff, yes. But the first time that I was in a room where the home team's a full room where the home team scored, that roar. Now we might as well been at the Stanley Cup Finals and an overtime goal was scored. That's how that thought hit me as a little kid. And those experiences, boy, do they ever form who you want to become. And when you become something, what you want to do with that becoming, don't they?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's cool that you had a similar experience, but and I have talked with a few other people that think maybe I took my kid a little early. He just takes it for granted now. And for me, it was a really, really, really big deal and a part of it really molded my life later. But that's really how I became a hockey guy. And I always loved it. I never missed game. I'd watch if the games were on TV, never missed it. Those were always my favorite humans, was the hockey players. And now I'm kind of living my dream, honestly.
Well, and I want to talk about that too, because at the end of the day, I've got these aspirations of broadcasting. David Letterman's my guy, and that's the thing. Now, do I have any aspirations that I'm going to be hosting the Late Show on CBS? No, probably not. But doing this though, stretching those muscles. What it turns into doesn't matter. The process is the fun part. And when you started that team, I want to talk a little bit about that, because Dawg Nation really, at the end of the day, wouldn't be around if it wasn't for that team. Talk about starting the team, and how long it went before the universe kind of intervened and changed the trajectory forever. Talk a little bit about the genesis of the Dogs.
Yeah, so it's just I played 1 year, 1 season on just a regular team, and it was okay, but I kind of was like, I want to kind of make my own mark, and a rink was literally being built in our neighborhood, and I could see the walls going up from our bedroom window, and I went there when they finally started hiring some people, and I put our very first team in, or the very first team in that league, and found the rink manager with construction going on around. And I said, we want to sign up, and so I put it, and then the ball got rolling, and we actually didn't have a team name. And as the CPA, I went out and I tried to find some jerseys that wouldn't be very expensive, and I found a set with a bulldog on the front, and they were some used jerseys, and they were cheap, and so that's how we became the Dogs. So it was kind of on accident, just because I was trying to save some money on uniforms, and so lo and behold, we were probably the worst team in the league. I think we won maybe 2 games that first year, and over the next 5-6 years, I would go to drop-ins and find different people that I thought, well, that guy's a pretty good player, seems like a good guy, and we slowly got better and better, and actually won a couple championships with that team, and then in 2009, February of 2009, that locker room that had 15 guys in it, and had become really good friends, and we were there when, I'll just make up names. Mike would be going through a divorce, or George's dad was sick, or Brian was having a baby, and we tease each other and different things. But at the end of the day, we were a family that supported each other, and we were there in good and bad. And in that February 2009, not 1, not 2, but 3 of those players in a 1-week period all were diagnosed with some sort of cancer, all on the same team. And so what I did is I would literally and figuratively pass my hat around the room, and we would go see Danny, or we would go see Dave, or we would go see Andy, and sneak some Molsons into the hospital, and get in trouble for that, but kind of not. And because the doctors and nurses saw what a big lift it was for their patient, at the same time, that not that there was money in that hat, but the fact that their buddies cared for them, and each time that lifted them. And those guys literally would, it was so important to them, this team, that they would, no joke, adjust their radiation and chemo treatments around our game schedule, so they would never miss a game. And despite the fact that they were struggling, and one of them, Andy Gary, literally was stage 4 colon cancer, and some really serious surgeries and very heavy doses. I remember sitting next to him and getting ready before a game, and he had a port in his chest, and he was telling me how the chemo in the morning was going to be going through that port, and still playing. And unbelievably, about 6 months after that pretty brutal February, a 4th guy on the team, who was very close to me, his name was Jack Kelly. He was a college soccer player, as I was. He coached kids soccer, as I do. He had 3 daughters and no sons, as I do. Oh. And he was a financial guy for Merrill Lynch, and I was a CPA. So it was literally like looking in the mirror when I would talk to Jack, and we would go to lunch once a month and talk about life and how not to raise a teenage girl and all that fun stuff. And lo and behold, he said he wasn't feeling good, and he literally the very next day after that lunch fell into a coma, and was in a coma for 9 days. And they tried to figure out what was going on, and determined it was an autoimmune disease, not cancer. And 6 months later, we lost Jack. And when we lost Jack, I spoke at that funeral and told those 3 girls that I want to do something in your dad's honor. I don't know what it is, but I want to do something. And really impacted me because I'd lost first time in my life I'd lost a close friend, but also the fact that he asked to be laid to rest in his dog's jersey, which was pretty cool. And so,
Oh my God.
yeah, so pretty big deal for us that day. And when that happened, I pulled those girls aside and didn't do something right away. It took several months, and I just on January 1st, 2011, so it's easy to remember, 1-1-1-1, sat around a kitchen table, and my goalie and left wing and right defenseman and centerman, we all threw $100 bill in the middle of the table, and they all looked at me as a CPA and said, figure out how to make a nonprofit. Let's try and honor Jack. And that's what we did. And never ever thinking that this was going to be more than just helping a couple of our guys through some medical bills and some other different things. And now 11, 12 years later, we've really proud to have given away over $3 million to hockey families in need. So it's been amazing journey, and to the point where it's literally changed my life, my wife's life, the lives of many of the people around me, and in a really positive way. That's what's happened.
I'm blown away by this story. There's a few things that I want to, before we move over to what it's evolving into now. And by the way, congratulations on turning that few $100s into something. I've got goosebumps all over me listening to this. From a mental wellness perspective, that locker room of these friends that are playing hockey together, but doing more than that, being there for each other. That is exactly what the goal on a global scale that Candy and her team are trying to do with He Changed It. We're trying to take exactly that because, looking through the pain points, and I mean, you've seen some of the stats as well when it comes to mental wellness, and 3 out of 4 suicides are middle-aged men. And the big reason, there's a whole bunch of pain points that they've identified, and all of those things are going to try and get rectified within the app, but the number one thing is loneliness and a lack of purpose. And when you have a group of guys who can be there for each other when they go through things, when life happens, and the ups and the downs, you can get through it together. And that's why I think sport resonates so closely with this, because at the idea of a team and banding together and this small group of guys that decide they want to do something, man, you talk about being able to move mountains. You're able to move mountains. The $3 million, before we get to, what it's evolving into now, what kind of families in need would you be helping? What are some of the situations that strike out to you?
It's really almost endless. The only connection of all these families, there's a hockey connection somehow. Or whether the husband plays, the wife plays, someone referees, the child plays, they all play. So there's that connection. But we right now on our site, we're raising money for probably 5-6 different families. One of those is somebody that lost their leg in a hunting accident. Another one is someone that's battling cancer. Another, and in the past, we've had widows that unexpectedly lost their husband. One of them actually literally in a hockey game. So another one is very, very famous referee named Butch Musso. He's the only Native American ever to referee an NHL hockey game. And he actually died in an accident in a NCAA playoff game at Ferris State, where he hit his head on the ice in the warm-ups and actually never woke up again after that. And that family today, actually does check presentations with me. And they're the son of Butch, who was actually my intern last year. So what happens is they become family members of us and become part of the journey. Last year, I also had another intern that on December 31st, 2020, he said goodbye to his dad, who was a hockey coach, and he passed away of prostate cancer. And that young man became my intern last year, and he calls me all the time as for advice on school and life and different things like that. But also is shoulder to shoulder with me when we help the next family, and that's part of the healing too, because they feel like a lot of these families, paraphrasing for them or speaking for them, is they want to figure out, they're humbled that they're supported, but they invariably want to give back themselves, and that's what happens. We bring them back in, and then they become part of the next family that needs help once they get their footing. So it's pretty cool.
The thing I love in this show is when you get into sort of a flow state, and what happens is you get into this conversation where you're totally engaged, and then the other person takes the words right out of your mouth. My next question I was about to ask is, it goes without saying, but it's worth saying anyway because of how good it is and how good it is for the feeling, that the soul of good for your soul. Giving back to people like this. I mean, at the end of the day, it's almost, David Letterman once said this too. He said, I love giving back to people, but it's almost selfish, because when I give joy or I give back to people, whether it's monetarily or people in need or whatever, it's almost a selfish act because of how good it makes me feel. I'm seeing it right now. It's doesn't need to be said, but let's say it anyway, because there's guys who listen to this that are maybe a little bit lost. How good is it to give back to people and to help them when they're down?
I'd never heard that quote. I love that one, but I kind of concur on that a little bit. But honestly, for me personally, I get thanked a lot, and people come to me and they're like, "Oh, you've lifted this huge weight off our family's shoulders." We didn't. I just recently got a Facebook personal note. I woke up in the morning and I just thought of this family I knew that Angie and Tom were going through a really tough time, and I was 6 a.m. I thought of them and I just wrote them a note, and she wrote back this long note and said that without Dawg Nation's help, they would have lost their house, and that this was such a big deal. And this was years ago, but Angie and Tom are still in my heart. I mean, my mind a lot, and my heart, and they'll be they give back all the time, even though it's really hard for them financially to give back, because they have their own challenges with some really serious financial things. But I say quite often, it's I get more out of this than you do, and I really do. I mean, it fills me up to be able to do that, and just watch people that are in dire straits or desperate needs to be able to come in and go, be with the help of all of this hockey community and your community. You have all these people that love you, and what happens is they rally, and they live longer, and they fight harder, and you watch miracles happen, right? For anyone, it's because they got a community.
I couldn't agree more. And you're preaching to the choir, and you're preaching the same message that I like to preach. And I like it when somebody else comes in and preaches that same message, because people get parent deaf to me hearing it. It's so good to hear that. Now, as we're recording this, it's going to come out a couple weeks later, but we're recording it the day after an event that rocked not just my nation, not just the Hockey Nation, but anybody who has heard this story. It rocked them. And I'm referring to the Humboldt Broncos crash. The anniversary of that was yesterday on the day of this recording. It was yesterday. You put posts up about it. I put posts up about it. A lot of people talking about it. A few weeks ago, and I think the hockey world is fairly small. So there's a legendary broadcaster up here. His name is Ron McLean. He's been the host of Hockey Night in Canada for well over 3 decades now. We had him on the podcast not too long ago, and he actually talked about the Humboldt Broncos tragedy that night as being one of the defining moments in his entire life. And you think about that. This is a guy that has seen, when it comes to hockey, he's seen everything. He's a referee at a very high level. He's seen all sorts of stuff over the years. And when he talked about this, so for those who aren't aware, it's a junior hockey team during playoff time, and they're going to an opponent's rink, and on the way, their bus gets into an accident with a semi truck. Many of the team died. Many of the team who survived physically impaired for the rest of their lives, paralyzings and things like that, paralyzations, I should say. Of course, the mental wellness of the rest of the people, the families around that accident, it rocked a nation. And so I want to ask you a little bit about that, because obviously where Dawg Nation is going now has a lot to do with that community, the sledge hockey community, as we call it up here in Canada. And is that where the connection began between you and sledge?
No, actually it didn't, but it deepened there as I had I'm used to saying sled down here, but there's something called Colorado Sled Hockey here, and that's a nonprofit here for adults and kids that are disabled, and it's a very strong like sled hockey program, and here in Colorado, partly they're win a lot of national championships and things like that, and so I actually did their tax return, and that's how I got to know them.
Okay.
And so instead of just doing their tax return and in typical dog father fashion, I decided to start volunteering for them, and I learned very quickly that they, number one, they're an amazing team, but number two, that they really could use some help. So I would rally referees to volunteer time, scorekeepers to volunteer time, and help them at some of their fundraisers and different things like that. But also got to know a lot of these people, whether they were born with spina bifida, with cerebral palsy, or lost their legs in Afghanistan, and they all had amazing stories. And so I tried to put them on the forefront. And lo and behold, the week after the Humboldt accident, I was in Chicago for the sled hockey championships of the United States, and the U.S. had just won the gold medal. This was in 2018, and they were so there was a lot of gold medal winners at this event. It's called the Disabled Fest, but they were on different teams. Some would be on the Avs team, some would be on the Chicago Blackhawks team, and so on and so forth. So while I was there, another guest that you've had, Carl Poole, I had met him years before, and he worked for a team called the Denver Cutthroats, a minor league hockey team in Colorado. And one of their players was a guy named Drew Coles. And this is where the world gets really small. And Drew barely played any games for the Cutthroats. He's a Calgary native, and broke his hand in a fight. And I was just trying to help that team kind of gain its footing in Colorado and grow hockey. And I took a couple of the players to a local elementary school to shoot and give away tickets to these little kids so they could come to the game and hopefully get some fans. And this guy Drew came with me, and I got to know him and had dinner with him afterwards. And then he got cut from the team, and I didn't think I'd ever hear from him again. That weekend, when I'm at the Disabled Fest with these players, 1 week after the Humboldt accident, I got a phone call from Drew Coles, and Drew he says, I got something for you to watch. And I told him where I was at. He goes, I can't believe you're at a sled event. And he just sent me a CBC story, and it was Ryan Straz in the hospital bed saying his hockey career might be over, or people think it's over, but it's not, because he's going to become a sledge hockey player. And of all places, and he goes, and then he called me back. He said, I know this kid. I used to train him. And so I got some of the American players that had just won the gold medal. One of them, Ralph D. Quebec, gave me the stick. One of the sticks he used in the gold medal game, signed it and said, see you on the ice someday, Ryan. And all the players, several of the players from the national team signed that stick. And I sent that stick to Ryan with a personal note from me and a Dawg Nation hat, not really thinking I was going to hear much on that. And a week later, I got a picture back from Ryan sitting in that same hospital bed wearing a dog hat. And a couple months after that, Ryan was in Philadelphia, kind of learning life as a paraplegic, and with his dad Tom, and we had a big hockey tournament that out in Colorado, and Ryan became one of our recipients that day. And his teammate Grayson Cameron came to Colorado and accepted that check on Ryan's behalf. And so in a really weird way, Carl, who
Yeah.
is connected to why I know Straz. And now Straz I brought down to Colorado a couple times. I had dinner with his family just last week. I went to the Avs Calgary game with him a week ago. And so it's we've kept that connection together for all these years.
It's interesting how these pieces all, it's like we're watching life as a 3D puzzle. And over here is where the landscape is being built, and up here is where the sky is and all that. And these parts don't really intersect until a couple of those pieces then suddenly link it all. And suddenly you're seeing a much bigger picture. So the connections and relationships pieces are coming together. Let's talk about the project, because now you guys, okay, $3 million to help families. That is tremendous. What you've done. Now the ambition shows up and it's like, okay, let's really go and fucking change the world. And you guys are embarking on a journey to do just that. Talk about the project, the bigness of the project and what you guys are doing now.
Yeah. So what we did there was along the way, this journey, I looked at it and I thought, boy, Dawg Nation it makes the money that we make is very labor intensive. It's designed through events, like really big events. And I'm not getting any younger. And someday I'm like, boy, if I stop doing this, will this just end? And it's such a magical thing. And so I thought there's got to be a way to tie in these SLED disabled folks that don't really have a proper place to play. That was the other thing I noticed when I would go see them. Their rinks are very similar to what we use, but they have to have different types of benches and things like that wouldn't even change my life at all. But would make a world of difference to them. And so I thought, well, what if I woke up literally at 4 a.m. one day and wrote this business plan? I said, what if we were able to find a municipality that would be generous enough to give us land? What if we were able to then go to general contractors and architects and different types of people, then go to generous souls and companies and build a hockey rink where it truly is for everyone, where every bit of the arena, from as soon as you get out of your car into the house, into the front doors and into the locker rooms and onto the ice, it is designed from day one with the disabled athlete in mind, but not changing my world at all. And the NHL has a mantra, which is awesome, called hockey is for everyone, but no one's really proved that yet. So I saw this and I thought, what if you could prove that? What if you built this arena that truly was for everyone, but you take it further than that, because you find all these generous souls. And maybe it's utopia, maybe not, but what if you were able to do that? And this arena is actually built by the entire hockey community, and then you still run the arena with youth hockey and adult hockey and sledge hockey and blind hockey and high school teams and what have you, and tournaments. And you take those profits and you don't give them back to myself or any of these NHL guys that are involved in Dawg Nation now, but instead you turn around and you pour those profits back into the community on all kinds of different initiatives. Probably the main one, helping families, which what Dawg Nation does when bad stuff happens to good people and but no fault of their own. But you also have this revenue stream or income stream that you're able to like slice and dice and do things like affordability and disabled sports and also mental health, which we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And what if you could do that? So this was about 5 years ago when I woke up at 4 a.m. and did that, and didn't want to wake up Cindy, and went in the other room and got on my CPA brain and kind of built this whole model out. Told my board about a week later about it and said, what do you guys think? And I started this ball rolling, and it's been like a really, really hard lift. It's a big, big, big job. But believe it or not, we one of the literally most perfect places in the world to put this is a place called Castle Pines, Colorado. And it's right on I-25, and it's near the USA hockey facilities that are in Colorado Springs. The U.S. Olympic Committee's out of Colorado Springs, and we've had feasibility studies done in that area. And it's like this is the perfect place to put something like this. And lo and behold, the city of Castle Pines made an incredible donation of 12 acres worth $5 million for us to do this, and no cost to Dawg Nation because they believed in it. And from there, we've got general contractors and architects and mechanical engineering companies and roofing companies and lighting companies that have all raised their hand and said, we'll heavily discount or even in some cases donate. And so that's an estimated another $7 million. And so it's been this really neat thing. And so where we are right now is the fundraising part, and lots of different options there. But we're currently in the stage of seeking a lead donor, of somebody that, and we have a pretty robust list of people that we're talking to and sharing this story with that could do this. And if we can hit them in the heart in the right place, and they see the vision that I see, and that's kind of where we're at right now. And so our goal is to build this honest hockey utopia place right here in Colorado.
Oh my God, I'm so inspired hearing this. The part that hit me really hard, where you talked about the NHL as this mantra saying hockey is for everyone. Well, nobody's gone out and proved that, and we're going to go out and prove that. And I got goosebumps all over me. I'm a gigantic Star Wars fan, and I'm about to go to Disneyland for the first time since Galaxy's Edge opened. I was going to a few years ago, but then our granddaughter had some medical stuff, and that sidelined that trip, and then pandemic showed up. I'm about to go and step on the Millennium Falcon for the first time, and I know I'm going to cry, and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be great. I imagine what you're building here, and I want to kind of cast the vision for because I mean, okay, Colorado, but it's not just like that's going to be the heartbeat in the center of it. Right. At the end of the day, we're talking about a place where if there's a sled or a sledge hockey player out there, this is going to be a place where that's their Millennium Falcon. They're going to want to go to this place. They're going to want to be at this place. You're talking about things like, I imagine, camps and different things to kind of be a beacon to let these folks come here and it be something that is for them. I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm not, though, am I? Like, I'm just catching the dream with you.
Yeah, no, and I mean, to kind of circle back where we just were, Ryan's told me, he said, and I shared this with his family. He said, you know, when we build this, I want to be the first person on that ice.
Oh my God.
And I said, Ryan, you're going to be the second, because I'm going to be the first. But yeah, no, I do see that. I see that as an opportunity for inclusion, and also for anybody in that arena to break barriers down, where I kind of envision you and I just played our beer league game, and like, it's a big deal for us, even though it really isn't to anybody else. But in that same restaurant afterwards, where you're having a beer and pizza, at the very next table are a couple of sled guys and you talking about their game, and maybe over at the other table is a blind person, but we're all the same because we're all hockey players.
Oh my God. So that's the thing. Like, okay, Colorado, all right, but this is not a border thing. This is a thing where it's everybody. And that's the thing about hockey. Hockey doesn't have borders. Hockey has rivalries that sometimes include borders and stuff. I'm a big Kings fan. I don't like those Anaheim Ducks very much. But at the end of the day, we're all united by this thing. And I think the vision is way bigger than Colorado, I guess, is where I'm trying to go with this. There are no borders with this thing. And the support that you're getting is coming from everywhere. You've had a lot of folks, publicly and privately, kind of saying to you, okay, we've got some things happening. You're building connections in community all over the world. Talk a little bit about, because I know how grateful you are. I know how driven you are about building this thing, but I also know how grateful you are. You guys are getting close on this thing in many, many ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a really big lift. And I'm a conservative guy by nature as a CPA. So
No.
I still think, I mean, I don't want anyone to think, oh, this is guaranteed, because it's not. And there's a lot of wood to chop on this still, and a lot of people that we need to get in front of. And what we're trying to do, as a business guy, lifetime business guy myself, I haven't been able to find this done anywhere else. Like, so I don't have we're pioneers.
No roadmap, is there?
Yeah, there is none. There is none. So a lot of this is I wouldn't say flying by the seat of our pants. We have an incredible team, from our attorneys to our board to celebrities to some of the and then the people that I just continually meet and are placed in front of me. But we're figuring it out as we go a little bit. I know what I want it to look like at the end, but there definitely are things that have happened along the way that I was like, wow, all right, yeah, I think we need to fix this part to make this part work, and so on and so forth. But right now we're primed, we're ready, and we're in the full-on fundraising stage right now. And if I see that coming from a lot of possible different ways. And if for any of your listeners do want to kind of check it out, there is a video out there and a GoFundMe page that's called hockeysheart.com. And you can kind of see my vision in it's another one of those, I wrote the script to this commercial, so to speak, that's on there. Another 4 a.m. one. And then the filmmakers took my vision. Then I said, here's what I kind of see. All these people coming to this arena, men, women, young, old, disabled, able-bodied, all coming into this arena at the same time, then all getting ready, and then all being on the ice together. But then coming and saying, what if there was a hockey rink for everyone? And there's not. And then ends with, but we can do this. And so that's kind of the vision I have with this whole thing. And it's getting closer and closer.
I'm so excited by this, and the evolution that you have taken. Again, I'm thinking about the guy that's listening to this podcast that might be aimless, the guy that might be, in a place not knowing where to go, not feeling purpose, feeling lonely, and it really comes down to, like, this is an evolution. Like, there's some people who will listen to this and go, "Oh my God, this guy's vision is so big." How do I? But it evolved into that, and I think that no matter where you are, no matter what the level is. There is some secret sauce to life when it comes to volunteering and giving back. And this is just really, when you talk about, I'm really glad that you talked about where you came from to get to this point, because it'd be really easy just to talk about where we're at and looking at the plans for what you're building. It'd be really easy to get excited and swept up in that, but it didn't start there. It started with a couple of guys around a table throwing down $100 bill saying, okay, let's and all of it. You would talk about feeling purpose, feeling that mental health thing. If you're in the red, bringing it back down from that, it's the best feeling in the world. And look what it can turn into. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's, when you step back, it's somewhat accidental, and it certainly had, when, as you said, we threw that $100 in the middle of the table. No way in the world would I thought I'd be on your podcast here talking about the dreams that we have in front of us. And it's a pretty cool journey. And it's, at this point, I know it's still going to be really, really tough, but I wouldn't bet against us right now.
No, I certainly wouldn't either. This is inspiring, and it's going to inspire a lot of people. Let's start doing, okay, if people want to come out and see what it is that you're building and they want to take a look at things, where's the best place to follow and to check out the progress?
Probably that hockeysheart.com is a good place. We also have a webpage, dawgnation.org, and that has a lot of the stories that we have, and the folks that we're helping. One of them, another recent one, I know I shared a couple of them, but you asked about them. One is a young man, well, not young, he's in his late 40s now, but he was a college hockey player at Lake Forest in Chicago, and a very gifted player, and went on to play some semi-pro and coached and different things like that, a lot of men's leagues, and married and has a daughter and business owner, and kind of living the typical life that a lot of us do. And in 2018, he slipped on the stairs and had a massive head injury, and he has a lot of physical challenges, but his mind's there, but he can't trigger where he can't speak very well. He
Right.
can only say 1 or 2 words at a time, but he knows exactly what's going on. But since that accident, every time he goes past his skates in his garage, he would say to his caretaker, hockey, hockey. And they thought that there's no way that Van's ever going to play hockey again. He can barely walk and without assistance and things like that. And lo and behold, he came to us, not the other way around. He wanted to be a volunteer for Dawg Nation, and we struggled and like, how are we going to do this? And my executive director, Mike Freeman, who's got an education background, really like, I think we can have him do some little stuff. And what we did is we had him hand out beers at our golf tournament, and he loved it because we had NHL players and Hall of Famers. As Joe Sakic walked by, and
Oh my
Michel
God.
Goulet and
Yep.
Milan Hajduk. So he was in heaven because he knew who these people were, and he was getting to hand them a beer. And but at the end of that day, we thanked him for being a volunteer and taking the time to do that. And we surprised him with a $60,000 check covering all their medical bills that night. And so, but we didn't stop there. What we did with Van is we got him out on the ice. And Van at first could barely skate without me or Mike holding him, and where he worried about him falling down. And we watched a miracle in front of us as Van's now skating forward, Van's skating backwards, Van's stopping, he's passing the puck, he's now working on shooting, and
Unassisted.
this is a guy that, we really shouldn't have ever been able to do it again. But the other really cool thing that we're watching with Van is Van's now Mike helped him the first couple times put his equipment on and different things like that, but now he's dressing himself, and not just in that locker room. For the first time since the accident, he dresses himself for real, all from that locker room.
Oh my God.
So that's the kind of stuff we get to do. And what I see this rink like doing every day, not just our one-off because we happen to meet this guy, that this is what this place can do.
You're creating a place where stories like this can unbelievably become commonplace.
Right. And you
Oh,
just walk in, and how you know who that guy is over there. Oh, you know who that guy is. Oh, that's Malik Jones over there. Oh, that's Van Stone. They become these almost celebrities. Oh, by the way, that's Milan Hajduk. And like,
yep.
They're all in the same sentence, all of these people. And might sound like utopia, but that's what I'm shooting for.
No, oh my God, it sounds beautiful. It's amazing. I hate to say it, time gets slippery when we do these things. That's I say that every episode because it happens every episode. We're getting to the tail end here. At the end of the day, is there a common, I mean, this is a hard question because I know that, like you say, everybody's story is unique. Yeah. Everybody's story of the people that you've helped is unique, and I get that. At the end of the day, we as men sometimes the way the language that's used in the He Changed It world is men silo. They go in and they don't talk. They let things sit, and wherever they're at when it comes to this stuff, and mentally they just don't release anything here. It seems to me like you discovered, either on purpose or accidentally, that that's not the way to go. That community, and anybody can find a community, by the way. And by the way, take a look at the hockey community in almost every region of North America. There's a hockey community somewhere. But whatever that community needs to be, it seems like finding a community is a bit of secret sauce for helping mentality, mindset, if you're feeling stuck, that kind of a thing. Just, I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there. What comes to your mind as I say that?
No, it's what comes to my mind is how important it is to have people around you. And I know not everybody does, but I think it's for us, and part of this is to find those people for each other, because I do have there was a documentary done on one of our recipients, and it reminds me of what you just said there. And he was burned over 90% of his body and was given literally a negative chance. No one in the whole world had ever lived through what this guy had gone through, and with the severity of the burns and his age and different things like that. But he was in incredible shape going into this. But despite that, I mean, he really should have died multiple times. And he had a whole room at the burn center at Anschutz Medical Center. The whole room was full of bright colors and encouraging words. Even though he was in a coma, he was encircled by that in his room. And the light, the blinds were always up, and light and sun and people visiting him constantly. And incredibly, Dave was in the hospital for 18 months, and he walked out, and today he skates and plays. And it's pretty amazing from what we saw happen. And a lot of that was his determined and will to live, but it also was that he had a community behind him that willed him, and he didn't want to let that community down. In the room right next to Dave was a woman that was also burned, and she was burned, not to diminishing it, but 25% of her body.
Right.
And this woman never had a visitor. She didn't have one thing on the wall. The room was dark most of the time, and lo and behold, she passed away. And so that, to me, when people ask me what the power of a community is, I think of Dave and Amanda every time.
If you're out there and you're listening to this and you're in a place where things are dark, you know, not just literally, but figuratively as well, things are dark, reach out. You know, that's what we're talking about. We're attacking the same problem from two different areas, you know, with what, you know, heCast is doing, where He Changed is doing. We're in startup mode because we want to change the world. Martin doing what he's doing, he's in startup mode because he wants to change the world as well. But the common thread is reaching out, is not sitting there in that aloneness, but actually, you know, finding that safe place to do. We're trying to create that safe place with He Changed It. You're trying to create that safe place there. And you're a brother from another mother, Martin. I just appreciate you like crazy. What's the website one more time as we finish up here?
DawgNation.org, and it's DAWG. We don't know how to spell down here, so DAWGNation.org. Back in the day, I always often tease that if I would have known this would have taken off, I would have thought of a way cooler name, but it's kind of cool that it's named after my beer league hockey team. So.
Oh, no, absolutely. This is the perfect name with the perfect origin as to how it came in. And you are the perfect dog father, man. You really are. Martin, I mean, I know our lives are going to intersect a lot more moving forward. I know that, like, it's already happening. And I'm grateful for that. As this thing grows and as things move into the next project, you'll come back on and we can talk about the progress of Dawg Nation, and you'll keep us posted. Yes, absolutely. I might surprise you and have Milan Hajduk sitting right shoulder to shoulder with me. Let's do it. Hey man, I'm a giant Kings fan, but one of the Kings, like my love for them goes deep. The only reason my boy Rob Blake has a Stanley Cup ring is because he had a tour with the Colorado Avalanche. So yes, no, man. Yeah. Hey Martin, again, you're changing the world. I just want to say thank you for being you, man. I really appreciate everything you're doing. I appreciate, again, brothers from another mother. The passion that you exude is the same passion that I exude for what my wife and her team are doing with He Changed It. And that's what we got to be, man. We got to be bright lights. It's a world that if you choose to focus on darkness, there's a lot of stuff that you can focus on. But in my opinion, the better path, the harder path, but the better path is to focus on the light and lightening up a bunch of that darkness. That is exactly what you're doing. Martin, thank you so much for what you're doing, brother. You're welcome, and thank you. Right back at you. You're changing lives, and look forward to the day where Cindy and I can have a meal with you and your wife, and
and I know that'll happen someday.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It will. They go by that fast. There we are. We're already almost another hour into this thing. Thank you, the viewer, whether you're on the YouTubes or you're on the listening to it in your ear holes, whatever it is. We thank all of the supporters of heCast out there. Once again, like, share, subscribe, do all those things. If you haven't downloaded the app yet, hechangedit.com has all the info. Thank you very, very much for being part of another episode of heCast. As always, I am Mike Chisholm. As always, I am the host of heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. Go change something.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, man.